Welcome everybody to another game in the definitive edition of Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition. And actually it's not a game that we are doing today, but it's a strategy that we want to show you and present you. And as you all know, we are not really skilled players ourselves, but we always decide to invite someone to present a strategy of theirs and talk the whole thing through with them. And today we have 𝐿𝐿 here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being with us. It's really good and really cool. So you're presenting an Inca strategy today, and as it's the usual way, we are playing, or we are showing two replays and talking it all through, and then we will go into details and make a detailed rundown of the strategy and just talk a bit about the options that you have, the possibilities of varying from the standard build and all that. And yeah, so stay tuned for that as well. And I think we will just start with the first game here, which is actually played against 𝐿𝐿, so most of you should know him, I would say.
Yeah, you picked a strong opponent for the first game, I'd say.
Right. So what is the...
Yeah, I did. I always do.
It's a good way of having
him
it.
Here as well.
Yeah, sure. He's all, Fred is also with us, and also just want to say 𝐿𝐿 is also one of the top 20 players at the moment in the Definitive Edition, so really, really pleased to have you here and show some good stuff. So what's the main idea behind your Inca strategy?
So the main idea, especially on this map, is to just stay in H2 and go for some sort of setup that allows you to mass units and stay H2 and just go for timing a bit later on in H2. And then just control the map and overwhelm your opponent, basically. Right.
So first of all, of course, we have to get to H2. You build a 𝐿𝐿 house, which is a little bit different from the usual houses because it supports more population and also generates a little bit of food over time. And you're collecting wood and coin now. What is that supposed to be for?
Yeah, exactly. So the houses are a bit special because basically in every Incan building, you can get a big button tag. And in the house big button, you get 4 villages, which is essentially your villager shipment for H1, which is of course super impactful and needed in every single game that you play with Inca. And that big button costs 180 of all resources. So food, wood, and coin, and that's your #1 priority in H1. So you have to gather all 3 resources and also try to get good treasures. So there's one good thing about Inca H1. Any treasure is good, basically, whether it's XP or resources, because you need all 3 of them. And actually, funnily enough, with most civs, wood treasures are really, really nice. But with Inca, a 𝐿𝐿 house is 135 wood, I think. And that's really rough to get. So actually, food and coin treasures are mostly what you want to get. Yeah, we're also just talking in the game chat, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that on the left here. So maybe just to have a look, 𝐿𝐿 is actually playing with the Japanese. We already saw one of the 𝐁𝐿𝐿 monks. I'm not sure if that is the name actually or the unit name. Right, and now you're doing this research here, just queued it in actually, 180 of each resource, the Queen's Festival. And it's actually being tagged quite fast as well, right? So it arrives before your first shipment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super fast to tag. And you can also see I don't have a villager in queue at the moment because you always have to prioritize getting the 4 villager button out. Because of course, like 4 vills is more than 1. So you'd rather have an idle TC for a couple of seconds than not get the big button.
Right.
And you can also see the 2 llamas that I'm shipping right now. It's a pretty good shipment in H1. It allows for a quicker age up because the llamas are already fattened. They both have 400 food and you gather them super quickly. So you can see I delete 1 llama right away, put like 5 or 6 villages on them or on it. And the second llama I try to always keep because as you can see, you will have enough food to age with just 1 llama, and the other one you can keep to get out the big button from the TC later on in H2.
Which because if you in this game, I believe, but yeah, I think like later on in H2.
Yeah, like a lot of people I see delete both the llamas, so maybe you can even eat the 1 llama that you get from the start of the game to not idle your TC while tagging the big button. But a lot of people delete both llamas, which is just nonsensical in my opinion, because you can see right now I'm even aging with 15 villages, I believe, and I already have the 800 food. 15 villages is actually a bit quicker than usual, I think. Normally, you'd age with 16 villages and be up a bit later. But Kaiser is playing Japan right now, and the current meta for Japan is to age with the Torii Gates, which gives you a samurai. So I really tried to age up a bit quicker because I want to place my war huts, which I'm getting from the Age of Politician, a bit more forward. And if I aged later, the samurai would deny that. And I'd be in big trouble if I can't get on the map against Japan. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you're aging with the chief here, I believe. He's called the chief. And that gives you 2 travois. And if I understood you correctly, you're planning on building 2 war huts with these 2 travois, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I've ever aged up with another politician and done anything else with the 2 travois.
I mean,
so that's just a really go-to thing to do.
Yeah, it really helps because like the war huts are getting constructed so fast by the travois, right? It's really, and you can now this way you can spend all your wood on different buildings, which is in this case Kansha houses here. So you transition most of your settlers onto wood.
Yeah, exactly. So your houses gather food already, which means I don't really have to gather food with my villagers at the moment. I can't train villagers during the age up anyway. So I gather wood with, I think, every single one except the one will that's hunting or herding towards the left side of the map. Mm-hmm. And now with my hero, I'm trying to scout what he's aging up with. My hero is a bit out of position, should be in his base right now, because I don't know at the moment what he's aging up with. I should check that a bit earlier. But I just assume it's the Torii Gates. And I'm also trying to get my hero into position to kind of slow down the samurai and get a crack shot off on it as soon as he hits age 2. So basically the build right now is just chop wood as much as you can. Try to get your wards up in a good position. And then soon, in like 10 seconds, I'm going to ship 600 wood, which is, at least I think I'm going to ship 600 wood. Maybe it's the free travois. No, it should be 600 wood. 600 wood is the go-to.
Speaking of it,
we can bread and butter is included.
We can just peek at your deck when we're speaking of it. I think we didn't do that with the 2 llamas when you ship them. So 600 wood in here. A lot of units. Inca does have a lot of units in H2. Also a lot of improvements already for their units, like moving all land military units faster, and also the attack damage for their bowmen. So they do have a strong position in H2, right?
Yeah, they do. They really do very well in an extended colonial play. Because you can boom very hard, you can get all your Kansha houses, you can get the TP travois very easily, and you're just gonna have a very strong EQ with that.
So
right now I think
you were able to scout the Torii Gates here, and you see the samurai walking around you, and actually got a good crack shot on it already.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to buy time here. I don't want the samurai to siege down my war huts, of course, and I don't really care about this chess key unit that you get with the age up. So actually, I think I lose it here, right? Yeah, I lose it, which shouldn't happen, but it's not the end of the world at all. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, with the change up, like in the early times of the definitive edition, the Chesky runner actually could receive shipments in H2, and that made it a very important unit for a lot of early rush builds with Inca. It's not in these times anymore, and now it's
luckily
mostly a scout unit, I would say, at this part of the game at least. I think you can even like play them in late game by using the infiltration and all that, but I think the meta right now is just having it as a spot unit.
I think there's an upgrade with which you can actually increase their damage, so they're actually then like a viable combat unit, but in the beginning of the game they're certainly not. Okay. Anyway, so you shipped 600 wood actually 2 times, right? So the first 600 wood arrived.
Yeah, exactly. I shipped twice. Yeah, because of... Let me maybe talk about the general game plan here. I just want to get a stable position on the map against this kind of Japan, because I know it's not a very eco-heavy Japan play that he's doing right now. Mm-hmm. And so in general on this map, the TPs are very strong, which is my kind of end goal for the H2 play, is to get all 4 TPs and get a stable position on the map and just pressure him on the map, siege some shrines and make some jungle bowmen, because that's a really strong unit. But as it is right now, Inca is generally a civ that ages up quite late, so I didn't really feel comfortable taking the TPs right away. That's why I shipped 600 wood twice to make a few more units at the start of the game. And now you see some Yumis poking at me. I even lose a jungle bowman for free, which is really annoying. But the jungle bowmen only have 16 range. I think Yumis have 18.
That's true. Okay, so what are you doing with these 1,200 wood? I mean, you're building a couple units. I think you moved most of your villages away from wood, so you can well uphold unit production just with the wood you sent. And also, I think you're building some additional Kancha houses.
Yeah, I try to max out my Kancha houses. I don't have all 13 of them yet, but 135 population is enough. And I also take the right-most TP. And I'm sending the free TP card right now. I took the TP that's furthest away. So I can send my Trevors to my Warheads and just comfortably get them up. Or just making jungle bowmen from 2 Warheads. And yeah, just trying to contain, trying to go on the map, trying to keep up the tempo.
Okay,
and
so
just not let Japan get out of hand. Not let him get like 50 Yumi and completely
steamroll
destroy
you.
me.
yeah, right. So about the trade post, this is of course very specific on the map, right? There are some maps where you don't even have any TPs, and on this map, Mexico, you can actually get 4 TPs quite easily if you really want to. And as Japan usually goes for a lot of shrines and like other buildings, you are usually free to take the TP line. So it really is a strong shipment here, getting the 3 Trevors. They build on themselves, so you get essentially 600 wood for 3 TPs, and they even build themselves. So that's a really good card, actually, better than 600 wood. And
yeah, you even get 750 because one what's it called, Tambo, which is a trading post, is 250 wood.
Right,
so yeah, it's actually really good. The 𝐿 TP has a little ranged attack, which also helps. And I think you can also get shipments from them. So they also act as a shipment point, which can be really helpful. Like maybe instead of a Kancha house during the age up to age 2, you can build a Tambo, and then you get a shipment point that's already forward, so you can get the Warheads in the forward position already, which really helps as well sometimes. But yeah, you said specifically on this map, of course, it's the goal to get the TPs. But you don't really have to do that. If it wasn't a map where I could get all 4 TPs, I'd just send a unit upgrade, like the poison arrow damage upgrade, instead of the free TPs. And we're going to see that later on anyway.
Right.
Okay, but right now you're trying to claim the trade route, and you're also improving the trade route at the same time. So you actually invested those 400 resources, I believe, for the stagecoach.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a pretty heavy investment. That's why I'm shipping some units right now, just because I want to hold this position and I don't want to die within the next 1 or 2 minutes.
Makes sense. One more thing I wanted to talk about, your unit composition. So right now you're going very heavily on jungle bowmen, because I think against Japan you're mostly expecting Yumi archers. Against other civilizations, let's say something that goes on cavalry, like maybe Dutch or maybe French, you would probably build a couple more spearmen, right?
Yeah, of course. And that also depends on what you scout during the age up, because most other civs are just a little bit faster than Inca, so you can easily scout them. Dutch is very easy to scout because all of the buildings are just clumped up or bunched up very tight together in the base. So you just walk in and see he's got a stable, then of course you build some spares. But against Japan, I saw some Yumi, and I expected a Yumi start. And for Torigate, Japan, it's very hard to add some Nagi, so I felt quite comfortable to not have as many spearmen in the early game. And jungle bowmen also do poison damage, which is maybe something that we could talk about, because I'm also sending the upgrade at the moment. And that means they do 15 ranged attack right away whenever they fire. But they also do an additional, I think, 4 damage over 4 seconds. Or maybe it's 6 damage over 6 seconds. I'm not quite sure.
But they're only doing that after the upgrade.
No, they already have that as a base thing going on. And the upgrade just improves the damage that the poison does over time and the duration of the damage.
It's actually quite interesting. It's a super interesting
mechanic
in the game.
Yeah, I think it's the only unit that does that, actually. I mean,
it's quite unique, yeah.
Also kind of confusing because obviously their their damage, like the one that is actually shown in their unit card, is not the damage they're actually dealing. If you take into account the poison damage as well.
Yeah, and that's a bit misleading because they're the most class cannon unit that you could ever get. They do so much damage. I think with the poison damage upgrade, they do 25 damage, each one of them, but they only have 90 hit points. So yeah, it's compared to Yuumi, has a bit more hit points, but only 24 ranged attack.
Right.
Which is already taking into account the Japanese consulate and maybe the Yuumi attack card, I think. Because 24 seems like a lot.
Yeah, it's actually already out.
Okay, so we're having the first engagement here. The Nagis that weren't expected to come that early in the game. I believe your pikes were a bit out of position in this case, but...
Yeah, I was a bit greedy with sieging the shrines on the left side, so my spares weren't in position, but now I can just get back into this choke between the two cliffs and the Nagi can't really engage. And the good thing about the Jungle Bowman as well is that the poison damage, or the damage over time, doesn't take into account the, what's it called, ranged resistance of the Nagi. And I think any negative multipliers. So Jungle Bowman are actually really, really strong anti-cav units, basically. Or they do much better against cav units than you'd expect a bow or an archer to do.
Yeah. Okay, so you switched all your trade posts to wood, by the way. So you're gathering a lot of wood. Also, I mean, there is technically a third unit you could build. Okay, you're training them just now. That was perfect timing. The Chimo runners, actually. So would you always start with pikes, or spears rather, and bowmen? Or is there any situation in which you would start to train Chimo runners right away?
I'd always start with the bow-pike composition. Chimus in general aren't really a niche unit, because as a cav unit, or as a shock infantry, I think, is what the classification is, like a coyote.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're just not really... They're not the strongest unit, let's say it like that. They have a multiplier against artillery, and they don't get snared, which is the main, the main thing about them. The main use is to snipe artillery and to be really pesky little raiders.
Yeah, they're super
it's really
fast
annoying
as
to play
right?
against them. Yeah, they're almost as fast as cav, 6.5.
Yeah, when you ship the upgrade to military units move faster, then they're actually faster than most cav units, so it's really good for them to raid in. Are they faster? I think so.
I'm not quite sure if they're actually affected by the upgrade anymore. I think that was like tweaked a bit. Not 100% sure whether they get like the full 10% bonus from the upgrade, but yeah, like I said,
we could check. We could check if you see at the deck. You can hover over the card.
Right, actually we could do that. I'm just pausing the game here for a second because this fight
no,
might be interesting.
That's the wrong one. That's the one. Yeah, land military, but
I think they are classified as land military, so I would assume that it does affect.
Okay, maybe it's the there was a second card, like the team card, that also makes your land infantry units faster. I think they were excluded from that one, I believe. So okay, so this card still applies. So ignore what I'm saying. But yeah, okay. So
basically, they're pretty fast and they can't get snared.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and here is gonna be the big engagement. We both don't really have a lot of cavalry or anti-cavalry.
Yeah, he mixed in some Ashigaru.
A couple more Nagis coming in. Yeah, exactly. He was expecting me to make some Chimus as well, but Jungle Bowmen are just so strong against Ashis, and here the micro is quite... it's a bit difficult. Like, what do you really focus with the Jungle Bowman? You just shoot at whatever, and the poison damage does its work. And I was just trying to run around with the Chimu, trying not to get hit by the Nagis on my Jungle Bowman. And where's my hero, by the way? My hero should be in the fight as well. Couple of pikes coming in from the back. I put them into cover mode. They just have to snare and tank some damage. The Jungle Bowmen are doing the damage. Hero coming in as well, and the Daimyo is getting very low HP. We can see the scores. Kaiser is actually still ahead of me, but that's because Inca is always underscored.
Okay,
like if you play Inca against Brit, for example, you can end up at like something like half the score of the Brit player and still be in an okay position.
Wow.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty drastic. But you made a very strong decision to actually focus the Naginata riders with your Chimo runners in this engagement, right? I mean, you tried to body block them at least to buy the.
Yeah, I tried to block them. I didn't really have a lot of anti-cav, which is maybe a mistake. But the Yumis are just really strong, and pikes are just pikes. You know, pikes just get focused down. They're not the greatest unit
the
overall.
resources are kind of wasted.
Jungle Bowmen already do the job really well, so you don't have to go very heavy on anti-cav.
Okay. So yeah, maybe like 1 or 2 points we didn't have the chance to discuss earlier. So while aging up into the second age, I believe you always are building 3 more Kancha houses. I mean, you built 1 in the start of the game, and I think 3 more until you've aged up. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think you should go as greedy as you can during transition, and you don't really have. I mean, you could build a market as well if you have some coin lying around. I think I didn't. And in general,
I think by now it's up, but you only build it after you finished all your Kancha houses, I believe.
Yeah, I think you should always go for a Kancha house if you can, because oftentimes you don't really have the coin because you're going bow pike, and you don't really have to gather any coin at the start of the game or for the first 12 minutes or so. Because Chimus only come in later. I made some Chimus right now because I saw he had a really large military mass of Yumis mainly, and I thought, well, the best way to get into that is to make Chimus. After all, Jungle Bowmen do quite well, but Chimus is the definite counter to Yumis.
Yeah.
So that's what I needed. And yeah, later on in H2, you can always also ship 700 coin to mass some Chimus. But I wouldn't ever do that at the start of the game. Like, you should always ship some wood first, ship the TP travelers first, ship some military unit upgrades, and then you can ship 700 coin and either opt for aging up or to mass some more units.
I've noticed that you're not a big fan of the upgrade for the Kancha houses, the gather upgrade that gives you 50% more food.
The brewing update.
Yeah. It's not a bad card, but the max potential of it is, I think, around 4 villages. Like, you get 13 Kancha houses, and the upgrade is goes from 0.6 food per second to 0.9, 0.3. So that's roughly 4 food per second that you get, and the villager already gathers at. Well, depends on upgrades. Depends if you have hunting dogs, but like something like 0.9 food per second or 1 food per second even. So it's roughly 4 villagers. The good thing is, if you have all the Kanchas and you send the card, the food per second is basically a trickle, which can't get idled. So that can be really helpful. But in most cases, I think an increase in the food gather rate is not really what you needed. And it's never something that I wanted here. Like, what did I want here? I wanted wood to get my infrastructure up at the start of the game. Then I wanted the TPs to get my full setup going. Then I wanted military to hold that setup that I had. And then I shipped the poison upgrade because it's a very strong upgrade card. And I'd always sent that before the Kancha upgrade.
I got some additional questions about some other cards you've got in your deck. Would you be so kind and open that again, Rev?
Sure.
So 2 cards I was wondering about. So the first card is, or like rather the 2 cards I was wondering about are the Sapa Inca, the upgrade for the War Chief, and the 300 wood in the first age. What are these for in this deck?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know.
I mean, there was a time where 300 wood was pretty meta because you were able to construct some Kancha houses early on. And this gave you a bonus, especially when the Chincha brewing was still stronger before the nerf. So I think
that's true. And you could always you could get a Kancha house and a TP in H1, which was pretty good. So it could be a bit more greedy with more shipments, like the Kancha house upgrade. But yeah, in general, I think if it's a heavy TP map like this, you'd rather opt for the free TP card in H2 instead of sending 300 wood first. Right. Because nowadays you also have to gather a lot of resources in H1 already because of the big button tag. And if you send 300 food and you want to build a Tambo and the Kancha house, you also have to chop an additional. I'm not sure.
35
like
wood.
90 wood or something.
Oh, no, right. They're more
So
expensive, the
no, it's
TPs.
250.
Yeah. I always forget that. No, it makes sense. Yeah, I think it's kind of a greedy card when you opt for later age up and want to be able to construct some more buildings during transition or like late in the first stage.
Yeah, but since Incas are very slow anyway, because of the big button shipment, I think,
it's super greedy.
Like Jerry is saying, the 2 llamas is definitely the meter card.
I mean, this is always...
So
sorry?
The one other card that you can send in H1 is exotic hardwoods, actually. If you want to be more greedy, that's something that I would send, because as you saw in the early game, during the transition to H2, I had all of my villages on wood. And I continue to have at least some villages on wood during the entire game. So that's quite a helpful upgrade, actually.
Yeah.
But of course you age a bit later. This game I managed to age up with 15 villages due to the llamas, mainly. And you wouldn't be able to do that with exotic hardwoods. You will always age up 16. And you can afford to do that sometimes against greedy civs, like maybe China or Dutch. Something like that, but not against this kind of Japan, which is rather aggressive and not that eco-oriented.
Right.
So maybe some closing thoughts on the strategy you just have shown us. Against which civilizations or which strategies would you play this, and against which civilizations would you opt for a different strategy?
You can play it against quite a lot of civilizations. You can play it against all civilizations that are quite eco-heavy. Like, for example, if Japan goes for a Heavenly Kami, or against China, who goes for H2 play, maybe. But against Dutch, for sure. Against in-base Brit or semi-FF civs, like France, who goes for a Masco Cav semi. Against, I don't know. You can play it against a lot of civs. But not against civs that go for a very aggressive FF, because that's the one thing that you wouldn't be able to hold mid-map, because you can't hold the Falconet pressure.
So like Ottoman or something else that is going for like
a very
Spain, Otto, Spain, maybe even Portuguese. They also can do a quite fast fortress age. They have their guns, which is not Falconets, so not that much of siege damage, but definitely enough to siege away a war.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the reason. Yeah, I guess you could argue that. But against Port, I wouldn't be too scared to go on the map.
Okay.
Even against an FF, because the organ guns are just are not Falconets, as you said, and Falconets is the scary thing. Yeah. And Port, if they have F, they won't really have the mass out to body block Chimus if they send organs very quickly. So I think against Portugal, you can go for this exact build order and be quite fine.
Okay.
All right. So as a wrap up, maybe, so everything that doesn't do a hard fast fortress is fine with this strategy. But let's say you're playing against something extremely aggressive, something like let's say Russia or Aztecs, like civilizations that have very fast age up times and that tend to like venture out on the map very early on as well. So you might having trouble getting your warheads up then, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a big difference. Then I'd place my warheads right in my base and just try to defend. But the rest of the build order, like sending the wood and getting catcher houses during transition, would be exactly the same. The only difference would be my warheads would be in base and I'd try to defend. And of course, I wouldn't be able to take the TPs right away. That's something that I wouldn't be able to do. But other than that, pump out units with 600 wood, maybe once or twice, doesn't really matter. Send the Cancer House upgrade, maybe, if you can afford to do it, because that also saves some food, because you don't have to put all your bills on food anymore. Yeah, it would basically be the same.
All right.
Always try to get as many Cancer Houses up as you can. That's really important.
So then I would
really
say
super important.
We already discussed a lot about this game. Let's dive into the next game and see if you show some variants or some varying options for the strategy. Who knows? And see.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we want to cover all eventualities, so we prepared a bit of a different game for like the second example of this build.
All right, see you in a second.
Welcome back for the second replay. What have you got here, Jerry?
The second replay, the second game, this time against Diaruga, and we're showing a variant of an Inca strategy. This time we're playing against Otto, and we're up against a fast fortress, which is basically the go-to strategy of the Ottomans. And in this game, we can't go for the classic 2 warheads forward, send 600 wood and be greedy stuff. We have to go for something else. And I decided to go for an FF myself. That's maybe not the go-to strategy for Inca. I'd say most of the time you go for your 2 warheads, send 600 wood, build as many cancer houses as you can, but not this time. Not this time, because you wouldn't be able to hold the Janissary and Falconet composition, which Otto gets so early, and it's so deadly because you lose your cancers, you lose your warheads, and you can't really counter it. Because in H2, all you have against artillery is the Chimu runners, and Janissaries or musketeers in general do such a good job at body blocking any sort of melee infantry units that you really can't get to it. So yeah. What we have here is the H1. It's pretty similar still. All the time you have to get your big button tech for the 4 villages. That's your top priority in H1. I am getting hunting dogs right now because we're playing on Florida and we start with a market. That's the thing with this map. But that also cost me a couple of resources. I'm not sure if I should have done it, but whatever, we're getting it. We like to be greedy. We get hunting dogs if we can. And I'm also getting a wood treasure here, 75 wood, which puts me like exactly 190 wood. We need 180 for the big button. So that's why I also got the hunting dogs, because I saw I could afford to without losing a lot of time.
Yeah, that was my
also, by the way.
Did you go hunting dogs because you saw the treasure?
Yeah, of course, yeah. You also have to, you always have to check for what kind of treasures you have and act accordingly. If I wouldn't have gotten that 75 wood, I would probably have said, nah, it would be too greedy to go for hunting dogs, and I would have just gone for the big button. Also, on the left side of the map, you can see something, a little thing. I'm scouting with everything that I have. I think I was scouting with a sheep and with the starting llama, which is also something that you can do. Always scout with your starting llama, because you're not going to eat it right away anyway. And you can put it to some use. It's really helpful to get those small treasures, to know what's around your base. And now we're approaching the 180, 180, 180. Big button is coming in. Pretty late, 2 minutes. You should try to get it earlier, but I got the hunting dogs. I was greedy. It's always a bit weird. I mean, how are you being greedy? By getting hunting dogs or by getting 4 villages earlier? Could also delay getting hunting dogs.
Yeah, it's hard to point down what is better, right? So,
I think honestly the 4 villages are better, because 4 villages is a massive amount. You can see I only have 14 villages right now, so it's like 1/3 of my entire eco. So always, really, please, guys, try to get your 4 villages as soon as possible. It's huge.
Okay, just a side note here, why the heck is the dog called Don Gatto when gatto is actually cat in Italian? Drives me mad, but not gonna discuss that today, I would say. So yeah, you also shipped the 2 llamas already. One of them is already being collected.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to do the same as last game. Get kill 1 llama and get it completely, so you have the 800 food as soon as possible.
But this time you're actually going up with 16 settlers here.
This time with 16, this time. That's for a good reason, because we're going for an FF ourselves and not for the same like forward warhead stuff. And that's why it's not so important when you hit H2, because you also have to gather for the 1,200 food and 1,000 coin anyway. So it doesn't really matter if I gather that right now or 1 villager earlier. So it doesn't hurt to age a bit later. I'm gonna put my warheads up in my base anyway. So and that's also so annoying. The llama, the villages are sometimes really stupid if they're bunched together. And I think 1 villager auto attacked my llama, and I couldn't stop it in time.
Which is actually not that bad.
It happened. So
I mean, you also need the 1,200 food anyways for aging up to fortress. I would assume, so it's not that much of a problem.
But right now I'd rather have those 3 villages gather wood.
For
and
one
get
more
the llama
Kancha
later
house,
on.
possibly.
Or yeah, exactly. I think I'm even going for 2 more.
But you would have killed the llama before you aged up to age 3 anyway, right?
Yeah. Would have used it to get the food for age 3. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so
You're getting paid off by a small wood treasure here, so the 35 wood that you miss from collecting food with these settlers is kind of coming from the treasure, maybe.
That's true. Treasures are super underrated in general.
Yeah, it's actually like one of the big problems that we had a long time is really underestimating the impact and not scouting for treasures, just like running around with your explorer and like not being able to get more than one treasure anyways, because you can't control the treasure guardians. It's also so much of micromanagement, being able to like take out 2 lions or something without losing too much health, which is really making all the difference then.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually something we haven't touched at all yet. The hero. The Incan hero is something quite special, even when you're making treasures, because you don't have a crack shot or something like that. You have a I think it's called Condor Eye, or something like that, which is a a projectile that hurts in an area does an area of effect damage.
Right.
So it's really easy to take those treasures that are guarded by small treasure guardians.
Like monkeys.
It's not so easy to take a treasure with like polar bears. It's not so easy because you do have a convert option, but it also that only allows you to convert human treasure guardians, like those outlaw blowgunners and whatever.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. They changed that for accuracy reasons. Don't ask me why.
Yeah.
So now we're seeing what you said about like playing against civilizations that push early. So you build your war huts very defensively here. And now you're gathering the 300.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just trying to get up a very secure base.
Yeah. Sending 700 coin.
Oh yeah, Daruga's saying you get a good starting army with Inca sometimes. As you can see, got 2 of those blowgunners, a dog, and a chess key. But I don't manage to snare him, so it's kind of whatever.
So he still gets away.
Coins coming in. Gathering food. I got a couple sheep, which I'm not gonna eat just yet, because I still have a villager in queue, and I see I'm gonna have the food in time anyway. Yeah, I can't snare him. The hero is not the fastest.
Yeah, it's actually, it's like compared to the different Indian or like native scout explorers, it's actually not that strong, right? Like I think all the other explorers from the native...
hero against hero, it's not that strong. But especially if you get to age 3, the crack shot ability, I'm just gonna say crack shot, it's not called crack shot, but I'm gonna say crack shot. That ability of your hero is quite strong. You can use it quite frequently as well. I'm not sure about the exact time, but if you're facing some infantry units, especially like skirmishers or strelets or something like that, it can be quite deadly.
Yeah, it can deal damage to units, to enemy units, in contrast to the normal crack shot ability. Also, you're aging up at the fast age right now, I believe, with the messenger, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So one thing to consider here is that the Ottoman is actually aging up with the scout. He does not pick the fast stage, otherwise he would have already been up. So you're actually a little bit benefiting from this, so you won't be really much later than him in Fortress. And it could be that he's actually some like 20 seconds faster or something than you, right?
Yeah, that's true. And I'm also in his base right now, trying to see what he aged up with. And I do see the Huss with my chess key in the back. I think he took it out.
Yeah, right.
And all I'm thinking right now is he has Huss, he's gonna have Janissaries, and he's gonna have Falconets.
Sure.
That's why I'm sending my Stronghold, because that's basically the only unit I can have that can hold all those 3 in combination. And after that, I'm just gonna sit in my base, try to get up Kancha houses again, try to get my eco going, and try to get a bunch of units. Yeah, you can see I crack-shotted those Janissaries, doing quite a bit of damage.
Absolutely.
They're not upgraded yet, so that's just H2.
You've been floating...
Almost kill one, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. You've been floating a lot of food here. That's for the big button from the town center, for the 5 spearmen, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. because I know he's coming into my base. I need some defenses to get up my stronghold. It does build pretty decently quickly, but I do need to defend it. And he's just poking in, coming in with my with his husk, trying to siege a bit. But now I do have my spearmen, and it's pretty cheap. It's just 500 food for 5 of those pike units, so that's okay. It's cheaper than if you would train them otherwise, and the tech researches really quickly as it's a big button as well. So that's really handy to have, and I'm making some bowmen as well.
So is this
been
like...
in a weird position. I was afraid here, but stronghold is going up, and that means I'm fine for now.
Yeah, so you know the falconets will also come, so you still have to consider what to do about those, because they can take out your front buildings here without being affected too much by the...
fortress.
There they are.
The stronghold, rather.
Yeah, exactly. And here they are already. I'm sending the Hurarakos, which is the anti-artillery unit and siege unit, because they can siege at range. I think they have 21 range
24.
without any sort of upgrades. 24? I think they start with 21. We will see in a second.
Yeah, we will.
I checked when I was watching the replay, that's why I'm knowing. So the usual, like, their attack is 20 range, but their siege attack is 24 for some reason, don't ask me why. So against
that's pretty
they're
cool.
only having like 20 range. But
yeah.
So yeah, we're seeing that you're like struggling against those falconets right now. You don't want to engage before your Huarakas are there.
No, they're coming out
now.
Yeah,
exactly. And my stronghold is actually not in the greatest position. They're coming out now, and they do really good damage. You can see one falconet is dead already. I'm bringing in my spearmen, my bowman, and my hero, and both falconets just died right now. And those Huarakas also deal 40 damage to any other unit, so that's pretty good. Iruga only has a couple of Janissaries. I think he shipped 8, and he's gonna be quite upset about that. But still, he's a little bit ahead. He can push me right now, but he's a little bit ahead. I was really struggling to hold that. You can see my eco isn't that great. 22 villages, 70 pop. I think that's only like 4 Kensha houses right now.
Yeah, you lost one of them right now. Oh, it's actually another one down here. So you're on 5, building a 6th one here. Now he's complaining.
Yeah, so I'm just trying. I'm just trying to get back like into this game or make the most out of it, get some eco up. You see 16 villages chopping. I just want to get Kensha houses while building a couple of those bowmen, because jungle bowmen, even if they're H2, I didn't have time to upgrade them yet. It is just what I need. Look at this mass that he has. Jesus Christ.
Ottoman Janissary mass in H3, also on veterancy now, super strong. But you can just pull back your units here into this beautiful
fortress, or stronghold rather.
Quick
question.
Exactly. You can see everything pop out. Yeah.
You decided to ship the spearmen instead of the jungle bowman at this point. What was your reasoning behind that?
Yeah, that's because Ottoman has 2 really threatening timings here. One is with the falconets and the Janissaries, and the second one's going to be the Mamelukes, or Spahis even, which is what I'm afraid of. I was just afraid of him coming into my base, and my stronghold, I mean, it's strong, but it only has 5,000 hit points left. I did manage to repair it back up. I didn't really think about it, to be honest. I didn't think he'd push it. Well, I was just afraid of him with his 35 or whatever Janissaries and 4 Mamelukes coming into my base and completely wrecking me. So that's why I'm shipping the spares for spearmen.
I understand.
And I'm still trying to get some jungle bowmen out. Yeah, I mean, just trying to get my bows going.
Just to understand your line of thought.
Yeah.
You were thinking that he would switch to cavalry now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not switch, but just ship his Mamelukes or his Spahi.
Okay, just ship him.
I don't even know if he has Spahis in his deck, but yeah.
Not gonna check now.
That's the scariest thing. Yeah, that's the scariest thing right now that I could think of. And I'm just sitting in my base, thinking of what to do. But yeah, just trying to get a jungle bowman mass going, trying to get a wood for the upgrade.
You're also getting out a lot of
for the Kensha houses.
Right, you're getting a lot of Kensha houses out now. Do they have 1,000 wood, the Incan?
They do, yeah, they do.
Because I think.
But you can see, I only ship military units to hold right now, and I think if I shipped 1,000 wood at any point, I would have been dead.
Yeah, could have been too greedy. You're even shipping the 2 town center Travoy now, which is actually quite a decent shipment.
Yeah, I'm shipping 2 TCs because Yeah, because it's also a defensive shipment. Right now, I'm trying to buy time. I'm trying to just get my eco going and sit in my base because I know he can't really enter my base. He can't really destroy me in there. So I'm just trying to fortify that. And yeah, what else to ship rather than 2 TCs for doing that? So now I'm also gathering the 200 wood and 100 coin for the upgrade, I think. Upgrade should be in queue shortly.
For the bowman, you mean?
If I'm not sleeping in the game, yeah, for the bowman. Oh yeah, and I saw the stagecoach coming in as well. 𝐈𝐳𝐽 has 2 TPs, so I'm trying to take that instead of getting the upgrade, because that's a bit more important right now.
Right, because you
2 TCs coming in.
You're also benefiting from him doing the stagecoach research, so it's always a good thing to at least build 1 or 2 TPs if it's possible. If it's in base like here, really helps you out. Yeah.
And you can see the H3 of 𝐿𝐭𝐫 is not all that different to the H2. I'm still making bowmen, still making those pikes, still building cancer houses.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay, actually decided to build 2 more falconets here. Like very, very mean or nasty surprise for you there.
Yeah, very mean.
So you're trying to disengage here for now because your upgrade for the jungle bowman is still not done, right? And maybe get some shots out with the Huarakas on the falconets.
Yeah, exactly. I still have those anti-artillery units, those Huarakas, and I'm just trying to get a good angle here. I'm just trying to survive this onslaught, basically. I don't have all that many units. I sent 2 TCs. I'm trying to get my eco going with cancer houses, which you do have to do, otherwise you're gonna struggle with the mats you can get. And here he's nicely pulling back the falconet. I was only able to get 1. I didn't pull back my Huarakas in time, and they're gone now.
Yeah, they're
but
kind
yeah,
of
just poking away with jungle bowman. Yeah, they die quite quickly. And that's also one point that we said earlier. They don't have the range of a falconet.
Yeah.
So a falconet can also shoot them.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's quite devastating. So yeah, TP going down didn't really pay off. And yeah, the overall game plan here is to just really try to hold on, try to get the falconet down.
Maybe get a couple of good shots. But maybe place some shots, right? You now have the veterancy on them, also shipping the damage, the Kurari,
yeah, but yeah.
Kurari, the thingy that gives you more poison damage from the home city. And you do have more range than, well, not with the spearmen, but you do have more range than the Janissaries, of course.
Yeah, that's true. So I can poke in. He comes with more falconets. And there's also something, an interesting aspect. Maybe the bowmen have another upgrade in H3, which I think is plus 15% ranged attack. But I do opt to go for the Kurara upgrade because it's just effectively more damage. It's much better than the H3 upgrade. So yeah, I do go for that. So in general, actually, H3 𝐿𝐭𝐫 is just H2 𝐿𝐭𝐫 while looking a bit more fancy.
Because you have a stronghold.
Yeah.
Usually.
Actually, one small observation I made here is that, like, the fact that he killed one of your warheads earlier in his first engagement really hurt you here because you had a lot of resources floating around which you couldn't spend because you were researching the upgrade for your jungle bowman at the time.
Yeah, I'm just really struggling here right now with my macro as well. I can't get a coin. I'm trying to get out those Huarakas. I just remembered, I have a stronghold. I can make those units. And also trying to PC fire that 1 low HP falconet.
Yeah, you actually got it.
Goes down. Yeah.
Now you're trying to rebuild the market, probably for like getting some more resources for your Huarakas.
That's actually quite nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Having the pikes on the falconet.
Getting that falconet. I'm just really trying to get a good angle, get that falconet with the poison damage from the jungle bowman, get the other one there.
But you're really lacking some bowmen as well now. He has a lot of Janissaries here, and there were 2 volleys from the falconets that like each wrecked like 4 or 5 bowmen from you. So now you're really in trouble here, trying to get out mass against those Janissaries.
Yeah, you have to be really careful. And all I'm trying to do is just hold on. You can see due to the cancer houses, I have a lot of villages in queue, which is just what you have to do for the longer game. If you have to, I mean, you don't just have to survive, you also have to make some villages while doing that, because Otherwise, it's just gonna be dead 5 minutes later in the game.
Sure. Yeah, there's another badass volley of that falconet here. Just one falconet, but he's just wrecking away your bowman there. Because as you said, those are glass cannons. They don't have much health, and the bombard attack of falconets really deal a lot of damage here.
Yeah, and 1 minute ago the scores were pretty even still. I had my 3rd TC up, I had my jungle bowman mass, but that's all gone now. And I can't really remass. I only have 1 warhead left, and he still has a bunch of units, and he can still go for Mamelukes, or he could go for 1000 wood and build his 3 TCs and just out eco me as well. So I resigned at this point.
So what would you say? What was the problem in the game? Like, I mean, sometimes you play good, but you still lose because you made some like wrong decisions at some point. But it's not really lacking the gameplay mechanics. Sometimes you're just in bad luck because you prepare for something. Like, for example, you said you're shipping spearmen, and actually I think you trained some spearmen because you were afraid of Ottoman cavalry mercenaries coming from the home city. They never came, so investing into those pikes or like spearmen didn't pay off here in this game, whereas like having more bowmen or just some huarakas maybe would have been more helpful. What's your feeling about this?
Yeah, well, sometimes you can't really know if he's going for falconets. Of course, you have to scout throughout the entire game what your opponent is doing, and I wasn't really doing that. I wasn't able to do that. I was just sitting in my base, being really, really scared of what he's gonna come with at me.
Right.
But yeah, the problem is just holding the Janissary falconet. It's just those couple timings that Ottoman gets against Inca, or that any civ that can FF and make a couple units and ship falconets very early can get. Like thinking about Spain, even France can do it.
But you were able to hold off the first, the first falconet.
Yeah, the first wave.
Right?
The first wave was fine. Yeah, it's the follow-up that is really difficult because Inca. The problem is you have to spend resources to boom with Inca, and Otto was just going full on. Maybe you can put off the fog of war for a second.
Sure.
Let's see what Otto has. Yeah, he only has 1 TC. He was just going full out military units.
Yeah, even like
maybe I could have done the same, but in order to do so, I do have to get some Kansha houses up for the food income.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, he had a stagecoach and 2 TPs, so I think in eco-wise, yeah, we were pretty much on par, and he probably also sent some crates. Yeah, a lot of free resources here. So that really helps.
Yeah,
but in terms of villager count, you were actually way ahead until he pushed into your base and killed off the settlers. You were way ahead. He didn't do his church upgrade or mosque upgrade to get past 25 villagers, didn't construct more TCs. So, like, for the late game, it looked good for you.
Exactly. I was just trying to get set up, trying to survive. Maybe a couple of things that I could have done right now, or during the last, 5 minutes or so, is get some Chimu runners, maybe raid him in his base, because he had all his units nearby my base all the time, and it would have been pretty easy to at least idle him and just annoy him, because everything that I had to do was hold on. Just hold on, just get a couple units, just don't lose everything. And especially sit on those jungle bowmen, because that's really the strongest unit that Inca can get, jungle bowmen. Especially with all those upgrades. And it's funny that we're on this map. Florida even has some upgrades in the native TPs that you can get for your jungle bowman or for any archer unit.
Right.
So it's always good to know the kind of maps as well. And maybe you can go back into the post game, because there's one thing that we can check that we didn't touch on yet, the military graph. Maybe you can even go into the military tab. Yeah, I mean, here you can see he always had more units, or at least equal units, and he was just trading much, much better, especially in the last fight with the falconets that I didn't manage to bring down. Once my Hurakas were dead, I tried to make a couple more, but he was sitting on my only coin mine. And I didn't manage to get out more. And if you go on the top bar into military, you can just see I was trading horribly. Daruga had 75 kills to 33 losses or deaths. So yeah, that's just Ottoman with falconets against my squishy infantry units that were trying to counter it.
Yeah, I mean,
and one thing as well, trying to counter it. The first thing I did was the stronghold. which did provide me with some infrastructure and with some defensive capabilities. You could see later on in the game, it didn't really come into play. I didn't really have the space to place it in the right corner of that like TP stagecoach line thing. And it didn't really come into play. It came into play at the beginning of the game, or at the beginning of H3, I should say. But later on, it wasn't really a factor. And I also placed my second or my third TC towards the right side, towards the sea, because that's where I had a hunt and the wood that I was gathering. And it was just, it was decently comfortable for him to pressure that. So maybe the base building wasn't really perfect.
Yeah, it's
and with a better stronghold placement, I could have done better.
It's a bit difficult on Florida
with
the trade route just running straight through your base, basically. It's kind of hard to group everything close by together. And I mean, I think one of the problems really was that you prepared for having a cavalry push with those mercenaries. And in the end, your pikes in this game were like pretty much not of any use, right? It's always good to have them as like cannon fodder and all that, but like literally cannon fodder in this game. But like having 10, 15 more bowmen and just being able to snipe some Janissaries, maybe even sniping a falconet, although they have more range, might have been really helpful. So it's kind of bad luck, like preparing for the wrong thing. You can never see if he's going on mercenaries or not. So, yeah, exactly.
And maybe if I was more versed in that kind of cockroach Inca style that's maybe established in just trying to hold on and trying to sit on your 5 or 10 jungle bowmen and poke away at those chances, and seeing now that Otto is only on 1 TC, and I mean he does have 2 TPs, which is nice, but only 1 TC, maybe I could have held on a little bit longer. In the last game we said that Inca has a really bad score all the time, and at this moment I was still ahead in villager count. He just had like 30 Janissaries that I couldn't deal with, so I resigned. But maybe I could have held on, sit under my stronghold, try to get an army again, and try to raid him a little bit. That's what Inca really excels at.
You also lost a lot of settlers.
And try to hold on.
You already lost some settlers on those forward coin mines, so might have been difficult holding this position. But I think for the most part of this game, actually, you were able to counter his fast fortress quite decently. So really good insight on that. So I think I just want to give one shout out here at that moment because you're joining us here today. If you haven't yet, make sure to check out 𝐿_Muno on Twitch. As I said, we will also do a detailed rundown of the whole strategy, show the deck in detail and everything right after that. But if you're still here with us and are interested in that, I already advise you to check out 𝐿_Muno's Twitch channel.
Yeah, it's also linked in our video description.
Of course. And I don't know, do you have any more questions right now, Fred?
I don't think so. This was a very detailed rundown of the strategy. Thank you for that, by the way. Right. So, yeah, I think we'll jump right to the conclusion.
Yep. Jumping to the conclusion, doing the rundown. See you in a second.
Welcome to the third and final part of this video, in which we're going to have a short rundown of the strategy. Or rather, Jerry is going to have a short rundown of the strategy. Yeah. Let's start with the usual variant, so the one without the fast fortress, maybe.
Yeah, sure. The bread and butter of Inca.
Exactly.
So yeah, the headline here is Inca Big Button. That's really what the H1 is all about. The Inca Big Button that you get from the 𝐿_Muno house. Well, in order to get that, of course, first of all, you have to build a 𝐿_Muno house. So you do that with the starting crates. You start with 300 wood. You can build one 𝐿_Muno house and save the rest of the wood for the Big Button. Big Button costs 180 of each resource, food, wood, and gold. And your top priority is just to get that as soon as possible. It's 4 villages. It's more than the standard shipment that most of the civilizations get, which is 3 villages, of course. So that's really putting into perspective how impactful those 4 villages can be. Now, you have to spend quite a lot of time to gather those resources for the Big Button. That's why you usually ship the 2 llamas in order to get up to the second age quite quickly. What I usually do is just delete one of those llamas and eat it once the shipment comes in. And you can try to age up with 15 villages. Usually you'll end up to age with 16 villages because you're not going to have all the food in time. Always depends on the sort of treasures that you get. And you can also idle your TC a little bit for 15 villages if you really want your warheads to be forward. The warheads, of course, is what you're going to get from the age of politician. Always age with that politician that gives you the 2 builder Trevors. There's basically no other choice for Inca. It's just so good to have 2 warheads up upon aging up. And then in transition, once you've clicked up, you put all your settlers on wood, build as many Kensho houses as you can, basically. Be as greedy as you can, really. Greed is the key to playing well. Yeah, then once you hit age 2, or yeah, I should maybe say, you usually get out like 3 more Kensho houses in transition. And then once you're in age 2, sorry, you can eat your second llama or shortly before you hit up. So you have the food that you really want to have for either the big button from your TC if you're under pressure, or if you want to apply pressure yourself early as possible. So you can get a 600 food if you want to for the 5 pikemen. Then, of course, build your 2 warheads that you get from the age up. Always depends on the matchup that you're in and what kind of pressure you want to apply, or if you think you're going to be pressured. That depends where you're going to place your warheads. So either you build them in front, in the middle of the map, you take the map, take some TPs maybe if you can, as an overall game plan against some economically focused civilization. Or if you're up against something like Aztec or Russia or Horde Rush, then you build your warheads defensively. And having those 2 warheads up really is a lot of defensive fortification. It's very hard to break 2 warheads. If you've ever played against Russia with 2 blockhouses, middle map, you're going to know how difficult it is to break 2 warheads or blockhouses. Then, yeah, depending on what you want to make, you put a couple of settlers on food. You can leave some more on wood. You're always going to need wood for both units and for more Kensho houses. The first shipment in H2 is basically always 600 wood. 600 wood is just what you need. You need it for houses that gather additional resources, and you need it for units that you really need to secure your position. Now, depending on what your opponent makes, what kind of unit your opponent makes, which is usually easy to scout. If he has a stable, he's going to go for Cav. If he has a Rex, he's not going to go for Cav. If he has Cav, you make some spare man. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's absolutely right.
So depending on that, you make the corresponding unit. If you see a stable, you're going to make pikes. If you don't see a stable, you're going to make jungle bowmen, which is really the strongest unit that you can get as Inca. Don't think of the maceman unit that you can get in H3 or whatever other unit, bowler, warriors. They're all not what you really want. What you want is jungle bowmen and a couple pikes that deals with almost any composition that your opponent can throw at you. And yeah, 600 wood to accomplish more Kensho houses and to start a unit production from 2 warheads. Now, on a TP map, next shipment can be the 3 Tambos, the Incan TPs, which is a pretty good shipment, as we discussed earlier in the first game. A Tambo is 250 wood each, which is more than a usual TP, but you also get some more benefits of that because you get a shipment point in each of your TPs, and it also has a very weak ranged attack, but that can also help. Not sure if 5 pikemen or something can take out a Tambo on their own. They're gonna pay for it at least. So yeah, but you only do that if the map that you're playing on has at least 3 TPs that you can actually use. But most of the maps in the current map pool in Quick Search on DE do have 3 TPs. I'm not sure. I think actually there is not a single map in the Quick Search pool that doesn't have a TP. So the 3 Tambos is almost always a viable shipment, in my opinion.
Yeah, so there's some stuff like, I think, for example, Siberia does have 3 TPs, but one of them is really near to the enemy base, so it's really hard to take that one. But you're right, most of the maps do have 3 TPs to take.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's always just a good version of the build to think about, and if you don't have a couple of TPs that you can easily take with the Trevors, then you just send 600 wood again. Almost accomplishes the same thing, or you ship an upgrade or whatever. And then going further down the H2 road, you build a couple of pikes and bows, which is just your go-to composition. Bows just do really well against basically everything because of poison damage. And then later on, you can get some coin, which you don't really have to do in early H2. Later on, you can get a coin, or you can send the 700 coin shipment to get out your third unit that you can make in the warhead, which is the 𝐂𝐮𝐿s, your shock infantry or your cavalry, sort of. And further down the road, you can send the upgrade cards. One is for the bowman, the 𝐄𝐻, which is a very strong upgrade for the damage they deal. Or you can send the, what's it called, the card that speeds up your military units, your land infantry.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what it's called now, but
path making or something like that, I think. Something
Road
about
building.
paths, road building, something like that, I think.
it
We
has
will
a
show the
road
correct
as a
name in the
picture.
video.
Okay, thanks for that.
Or highlight the card usually. And yes, also the Kancha house upgrade, that is an option, right? For more eco, like 4 settlers roundabout.
Exactly, yeah, and the overall goal with that is just to get up your setup and get your production rolling from both the warheads and go for a timing attack and just control the map and control what your opponent is doing and crush him with your bowman and pike composition. Yeah.
Right, also like don't forget the market at some point. Can also help to like boost your eco at some point. Maybe not early on because Kancha houses are also a very viable option, but at some point it makes sense to build the market and do the hunting dogs and possibly even the wood upgrade if you don't have a TP line that's serving you enough wood. Okay, so I think you now see the whole build order for staying in H2, but we already saw in the second game that we discussed today that it can also be an option to go for an fast fortress play style. So what's the build order for that?
Yeah, exactly. Good thing about Inca here is, well, good thing is that they don't really have the greatest H3 shipments, so that's why the deck basically stays the same, even for the FF version. Start of the game is basically the same. You just get your big button tag, you get your 4 villages as soon as possible, and you eat your first llama to get to H2, your second llama after you've aged up in order to get to H3 sooner. During the transition you get a wood, so you get a couple more Kancha houses, get a couple more eco. Eco is always good, and you don't have to spend as much time to get a food. You're gonna get the food in time anyway. H2, you can place your warheads defensively because you're going for an FF, you don't want to get pressured, and you don't have to build your warheads forward, you're just gonna lose them anyway. So you place them defensively for a good setup in your base, ship the 700 coin, get a 300 coin yourself, and you click the age up with the messenger politician, which is the fast age up. It's just the best option, gives you a chess key as well, and I think maybe it even allows your chess key to get shipments, receive shipments again.
Yeah, it does in H3, but yeah, I mean, since you placed all your stuff defensively anyway, that's not too important in this playstyle, I suppose.
Well, it can be helpful to just keep it in the back, and like if you push at some point, have it to receive a shipment at the front, and maybe get a good timing there. Can be helpful.
Yeah, it can be super helpful actually, because if you have F, chances are you're going to be pressured with, for example, Musketeer Falconet composition. And if you keep your chess key alive, you can put it somewhere like on a coin mine in your opponent's base. And if your opponent has his whole army in your base and is pressuring you, you can ship the 9 𝐂𝐮 card to your chess key and just raid him, get a very nice raid in. So that's a good use for it. Right. Anyway, once you hit H3, your most useful shipment is going to be the stronghold, the Machu Picchu, because that can hold almost any sort of pressure on its own if you get it up. In order to get it up, you can get the 500 food for the big button in the TC, which gives you a couple pikes. That's some defense that you have already, so your Trevor and your stronghold, while under construction, isn't being pressured too much. And then the basic goal is pretty much the same as in any prolonged H2 game. Build your Kancha houses, max out your eco, send upgrades, send units to hold, especially Hurakas against the Falconets, which is very scary shipment. And yeah, just get your Jungle Bowman and Pike composition going. I think the Bowler Warrior it's called Bowler Warrior, is your basically ranged cav equivalent. Still an infantry unit, but it acts as an anti-cavalry unit, which has a sort of range attack, which also snares at range. but it's really the worst unit that Inca has, and I would advise to not train it at all. Stick to your jungle bowman and pike composition. It just does much better than your boulder warriors. And even the mazemen are accessible in H3, but they're very expensive. They also cost 3 population, I think, which shouldn't be that big of a deal since you have the Kensha houses, but still, they're very expensive, and they're just very slow Skull Knight things, which is not really what you need in most situations.
Yeah, maybe
yeah.
except for like pushing a weird outpost or something at some point. Maybe there's some use for that, but I think it's...
Yeah, I think the only use for it is a sort of ASM style pop of units. If you're getting circle sieged by your opponent, and you can pop the 3 mazemen on a couple skirmishes even, they can get some nice swings in. But still,
yeah.
Stick to jungle bowmen and pikes. That's the safe bet.
Very situationally.
maybe some Chimo runners for raiding, or some Huarakas against any enemy artillery and for sieging.
Yeah, that's true. And you still have your 2 warlords. Try to pump out as many units as you can in order to hold. Behind that, keep improving your eco as much as you can as well. Upgrades you can send mainly the Kurare for your jungle bowman. You can send the 2 TCs as a sort of defensive shipment, which allows you to hold on a little bit longer. The more time you have, the better it gets, because you don't run out of food due to the Kensha houses. Your opponent does run out of food, and the later it goes, the better chances you have to get some nice raids in, and to just hold with the stronghold and with your strong jungle bowman. And you can even ship the ranged damage increase in H3 for your jungle bowman.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really good. Really cool rundown. So maybe just as a like wrap up, would you say that like which of the 2? I mean, you said it's for different use cases, right? When you expect the really aggressive fortress age up, then like you don't really have another option than also go on a fast fortress and being able to counter the falconets with a Machu Picchu stronghold, and also possibly the Hurakas against falconets. But like personally, what is your preference? Staying H2 or like going up to fortress?
Yeah, my personal preference is staying H2. But of course, in some matchups, preference doesn't really matter, and you have to do whatever it takes to win.
Yeah, we figured that out the hard way for many years. We have the preference of dragging a game into the late game, even if it's not like advisable to do so. And we took many years to learn that rushing is actually, in many cases, a good thing
strategy,
and a very good thing to do.
Amen to that. But
especially if your opponent does not rush.
Okay.
I would say in most cases you stay H2. It's similar to Russia and to Brit. You can boom very hard in H2. You can get a very nice eco, very nice setup, and your units are already quite strong in H2, especially the bowman. So if you can take it to a prolonged H2 battle, if you can manage to stop your opponent from aging and make him be stuck in H2 with you, then it's just going to be great for you.
Cool.
Yeah.
And also one question that I just want to ask, because it's like really interesting, I think. I mean, Inca have been kind of OP when the DE dropped, because they had that like crazy gathering rate on their estates. Also the Kensha houses, they had a really good eco boom, and then you have those strongholds, funny stuff going on there that you could like in H3 send the cannons, the Haudenosaunee cannons, and like even just move them into your buildings and stuff like that. But they have been nerfed quite drastically since then. Do you feel that Inca is now really well balanced, or do you think that they're a little bit too weak or a little bit too strong at the moment?
No, I do think they're in a good spot at the moment. I think they're a bit gimmicky, like most of the newer civilizations that have been introduced to the game. Like people would say the Asian dynasty civilizations are already gimmicky. And I think Inca they have some gimmicks that are not really seen among other civilizations. So you really have to know what to do when, like when to go for a Chimu raid, when to send your stronghold, for example, and to abuse your jungle bowman stronghold, maybe even go H4, as you said, and ship the light cannons, the artillery. But yeah, that has been nerfed. That was an H3 thing prior to a certain update in the game, and I think it belongs to H4. Stronghold was also nerfed. I think the range on the Stronghold was a bit nerfed.
Yeah.
And I think it's in a good spot right now. Can still be very, very difficult to play against Inca, that is, because it's a civilization that really can hold on very well, can defend very well in the base with Stronghold, TC fire, Warhead fire, Jungle Bowman doing poison damage and stuff like that. So it can be a very tough civilization to play against.
Mm-hmm.
But it's in a good spot right now, I think, balance-wise.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, very nice closing comment there. Thank you very, very much for joining us today. It's very much appreciated. And if you want to do something for Jerry, as we said earlier, please feel free to visit his Twitch channel. We will link it in the video description. And yeah, thank you for joining us again.
Yeah,
thanks for having me on. It was great.
Been a blast. It's always super interesting for us, like talking with some expert, some game expert about the stuff that we think is good or bad, and like none of us really is like neither Fred nor I are really good with playing Inca. I think I never played them, and yeah, it's like every now and then you see them, and for example, like the poison damage, and like if you just know what other players might think would be a viable build with Inca, also helps you to counter them. So really thank you for the input here, and yeah, glad you joined us here. Really enjoyed that.
Thanks again.
So
much for this video. Like I said, check out Jerry's Twitch channel, and for now that's all, and I hope we see each other again in another video maybe.
And of course, if you have any questions about Incan build orders that we presented today, just feel free to drop them in the comments, and we can always come back to Jerry. If we don't really know what to answer on that, we can always come back to you, I would assume.
Sure, yeah.
Cool. All right then, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in, for hanging around here today. Let us know how you like the stuff, and tune in for future strategy videos and our own crappy gameplay.
Exactly.
All right. See you around.
See ya.